Hey, who invited climate action to the party?
We did.
Hey, I'm Shannon Burns.
And I'm Sarah Christie.
Together, we host the Earth Day Party Podcast,
where the guest list is full of climate experts sharing their advice on how we can protect our planet.
Everything from avoiding microplastics to sustainable fashion to getting a prescription to spend time in nature.
Plus, we hear from David Suzuki.
This is a party where everyone is invited.
The Earth Day Party Podcast on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
This Week in Gaming with Naomi Kyle.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to This Week in Gaming. I'm Naomi Kyle, and this week we're catching up on Switch 2 pre-orders. A TSA PSA, Sydney Sweeney joins an unexpected video game franchise, and a full Switch 2 hands-on impression from our guest this week. We've got all of this week's gaming news. Let's get to it. On April 24th, the turn-based RPG Clair Obscur Expedition 33 released to critical acclaim and had sold 500,000 units after its first day on the market. Well, today, it has sold over 1 million units, and sales just keep climbing. Expedition 33's success can simply be attributed to the game being a fun, high-quality RPG, but some of that success is owed to its low price point. At just $67 or $50 US, Expedition 33 undercuts other AAA titles whose prices have steadily been on the rise from $80 to $90, and in some cases, $100 for Canadians. Expedition 33 has earned high praise from numerous video game reviewers, all of which have given the game 9 out of 10s, and in some cases, a perfect score. On Metacritic, Expedition 33 has a Metascore of 92 out of 100, beating out Split Fiction and tying with Blueprints for the top spot as Metacritic's best game of the year. Most impressive, however, is the game's user score, which comes in at a staggering 9.7 out of 10, making it the highest rated game by users on Metacritic. Impressive. A release date for Ghost of Yotei has been announced by the series developer Sucker Punch Productions. The Ghost of Yotei is a standalone sequel to Ghost of Tsushima that tells a story of revenge commonplace to those who are familiar with the genre. Atsu, the game's protagonist, is on a quest to avenge her family who were murdered by a bloodthirsty gang known as the Yotei Six. As so, she takes it upon herself to track down each member of the Yotei Six and bring them to justice. Ghost of Yotei will be released as a PlayStation exclusive on October 2nd, 2025. Actress Sydney Sweeney has skyrocketed to stardom since starring in hit TV series like Euphoria and The White Lotus. The rising star is turning her attention toward landing roles on the big screen, and with it, a focus on video game adaptations. According to Variety, Sydney Sweeney has been tapped to act in the feature film adaptation of Split Fiction. Variety says it is unclear if Sydney Sweeney will play Zoe or Mio, but it seems clear to me that Zoe would be the perfect fit for her. Ms. Sweeney is looking to broaden her horizons beyond acting, and she is moving into a producer role on yet another video game adaptation of the classic racing game, Outrun. Set to direct the movie is none other than Michael Bay, who excels in creating films that are action-packed and bursting at the seams with adrenaline, as we know. Outrun, as older listeners may recall, is a racing game primarily about hitting the next checkpoint before time runs out. So, there is no clear plot for the story quite yet, but plenty of room to write something thrilling that lives up to the Outrun name. I look forward to seeing how this one goes. Pre-orders for the Nintendo Switch 2 in North America began on April 24th, and boy, were there a lot of issues. At midnight on the West Coast, Walmart, Target, and Best Buy began accepting online pre-orders. Customers who chose to pre-order with Walmart were put into a queue at the stroke of midnight, where they waited and waited some more. Some customers made it out the other end with a successful pre-order, and others who weren't as lucky received an error message and were forced back to the end of the queue. Target opted for more of a free-for-all approach, where customers could check out without having to wait in a queue. This resulted in pre-orders on Target's website to sell out instantaneously. The few customers that found success placing their pre-order were quickly met with disappointment because Target's strategy had caused them to sell more than they had in stock. To correct their mistake, Target resorted to sending out thousands of emails notifying customers that the pre-order they had placed just minutes ago was being canceled. Pre-orders at Best Buy didn't go any smoother. The listing for Switch 2 pre-orders on Best Buy's website didn't go live for nearly 30 minutes before finally ushering online customers into a digital lobby to queue for another 30 minutes before being able to pre-order the Switch 2. Then there are those who decided to skip the nonsense of online ordering altogether and went for the foolproof method of pre-ordering in person. Lines formed out front of local GameStops hours before opening, with gamers eager to get in their pre-order. Stock was still limited, of course, but those who stood in line were rewarded for their patience and secured a pre-order for the Switch 2 hassle-free. The Transportation Security Administration, or TSA as they are more commonly known as in the States, posted on their official Facebook page a photo of a replica monkey bomb for Call of Duty and a PSA that reads, "This monkey may rack up points in a game, but in real life, leave the gear for your loadout screen. Replica weapons and explosives, no matter how cool or collectible, aren't allowed in either carry-on or checked baggage." Unlike the ones in the game, this model does not explode and is just designed to cradle your controller. Nonetheless, something like this is obviously not suitable to take on a plane and can be flagged as a threat, even if it is just a toy model. So just keep that in mind next time you want to bring on a cool prop from your favorite game. Now it is time to go over the video games releasing this week.
Games out this week.
On April 29th, Fragpunk gets its long-awaited release on PS5 and Xbox Series X and S. Then on April 30th, MotoGP 25 throttles onto all platforms. Despelotay and Kyborg kick off on PS4, PS5, PC, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X and S. And that's it for this week's games releases.
Quest complete.
It's now time to chat with our guest this week, Victor Lucas, who joins us with his official hands-on impressions of the Switch 2 and the games he got to play.
Select game mode. Multiplayer.
Hey, Victor. Welcome back to the show so quickly. You have some big stuff to talk about because the Switch 2, you got your own hands-on experience with it, and I can't wait to talk to you about it. But how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I had a little vacation before we went to the Nintendo Switch 2 experience in Toronto. Nintendo of Canada invited me to go and check the system out and play some of the games. And so I had a nice week off. And then I got my head blown off playing these new Nintendo Switch 2 games. And the one that really shocked me, although I'm not shocked that I was shocked by it, was Mario Kart World. And it wasn't so much that it was reinventing the core experience of racing against all of these cute little critters and Mario family members. But they added a knockout mode, which is one of my favorite modes in racing games, where you have to cross the finish line before the sort of set amount of players can keep going. And if you're not at that amount, you get booted out of the race. And it's so intense, especially when you have 24 people playing. Everybody, by the way, with years of experience playing this freaking game, right? Nobody's bad at Mario Kart. Everybody's played one of these games over the years.
Everyone's played it.
So it was so intense. And you know, in my race, we only had a limited amount of time to play everything. But in my race, I came in second. So I was literally sweating and freaking out and just like, go, 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 all the way to the very end of the thing. And it was so fun. And it's gorgeous. Oh, my God. The Switch 2 really has the horsepower now to render in 4K and 120 frames per second. There's HDR, all of the buzzwords, all of these tech sort of benefits that the other consoles have had for a while. Now you can have them on your Switch 2. And
amazing.
It looks amazing. I mean, the Mario Kart world looks like it was lifted right out of the movie.
Oh my gosh.
It's so gorgeous. And it's open world. There's a whole bunch of different areas for you to go and explore. And you got a sense of the immensity, the enormity of the experience, but also just the joy and the fun and the social elements of it too, playing with other people. It was really cool.
Yeah, you have to tell me. Just everything. What stood out to you is what I want to know. And what was the experience like? And what did you think of the hardware itself? Okay, well, the hardware is cool, but it's not a shock. It's really an iteration. It's a lot more of, it's more. It's the Switch 1 with better, horsepower and a better screen. It's bigger. Feels a little bit heavier, but I don't think it's going to be too cumbersome. There's magnets now on the Joy-Con, so they feel a lot more secure. And I brought my Switch 1 to kind of compare the feel of everything and the size of everything. And it just feels better designed.
and more elegant. We didn't get a sense of what the front end is going to be like or the eShop. These are all questions that are going to be answered as we continue down this track here. But the Switch 2 just feels like a better deal, better, maybe not financially because it's more expensive, but it's just a better equipped machine. And that was evident in the Nintendo software, but also a huge part of what the showcase was all the partnerships that Nintendo has. And so Street Fighter 6 looked amazing on the machine. Played Cyberpunk, and it looked really good. It didn't look as good as PlayStation 5.
Of course.
There's still some time there for them to kind of evolve it, but it looked really good. And it's going to be really cool for me to see people playing some of these games that haven't been on Nintendo platforms this before, right? Hogwarts Legacy got a boost, and then Nintendo's been boosting some of their own software, like the Legend of Zelda games, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, which now run at 60 frames per second, these huge open world,
amazing,
just mind-blowing experiences that are beautiful. And it looked a little surreal because it almost looked like they had been hacked, like some hackers got in there and tooled everything and just made it run better. But Nintendo obviously has just done the sweetening there. Out of all the games that I played, though, the one that's exciting me the most, and it is a Switch 1 game as well, which is good news for existing players, is Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. I love this franchise. I love Metroid so much. It's just it's a player's game, It's something where you could just get lost, and they're so rewarding. There's so much mystery, and it looks like just this polish and this evolution on the themes of Metroid Prime. And on the Switch 2, it will run at 120 frames per second, and it's got HDR and all the beautiful kind of lighting that you could want. It's gorgeous, but they also have mouse controls because that's the other sort of new thing with the Switch 2 Joy-Con.
That's right.
Put them on the table and use them as mice, and it's weird. But it's very cool.
Is it intuitive? Like, did you pick it up right away? Did it feel weird? Yeah, okay.
Immediately. And now I've played on everything for a long time. And I, admittedly don't play too much on the PC these days, especially first-person shooters. I've sort of trained myself to play them more on console. But this brought me right back, I've spent many a year playing Quake and Doom and lots of other FPS games on PC. And the precision and the speed which you can target with when you're using a mouse is unbelievable. And so it made Metroid feel like a shooter. And one of the things that I kind of clued in on was that was always the complaint about Metroid Prime, is that it sort of suggests a shooter, but it didn't really play like a shooter. It was much more of an adventure game. And Nintendo really went over the marketing around that and saying it's an adventure game where it's a lot about exploration and solving the mystery and scanning everything. And you're still doing all of that, but now you also get that sort of, almost Halo-esque shooter experience with a mouse.
They finally took it there.
Yeah,
it's about time. They evolved.
I don't know how people are going to pick that up, though. I don't know if that's going to be the thing that everybody gravitates towards, because you need a surface. And I think the thing about consoles, and why I prefer to play on console, quite frankly, is I want to sit back from my TV and just soak it up. And so I'm thinking there might be an accessory from Nintendo or a third-party partner where you get a little desk on your lap or something like that, so people that want to play. But I don't know what the pickup is going to be for something like that.
Right.
And so it's interesting. But it's cool that Nintendo's offering some alternatives and some different ideas. The other big game was Dragon Drive, which is the wheelchair arcade sports game where you're playing basketball with it's 3-on-3 basically. And it actually played pretty well. It looks very minimalist in terms of its art style and its design. But when you're in the throes of it, it felt good. I mean, you're using both Joy-Con as if you're using your hands to push forward on on the wheels of a wheelchair, and then you lift up a hand to throw and stuff. And it became quite intuitive. And also there was quite a bit of exertion. And I think the message around that is that, this is a community that shouldn't be ignored. These are real athletes that do this kind of thing in real life. And I love that this is being celebrated in in a truthful way, in an authentic way like this. But again, I don't know what the pickup is going to be, because you need that surface and you need to have the energy to keep doing this. And even like in the 20 minutes I was playing, I was like, okay, I'm feeling this in my arms, man. I'm just
this is a full-on workout now.
which is probably a good thing.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
that was cool. It was cool to see it. It did feel. Remember how awesome ARMS was, and what a surprise ARMS.
Yeah,
right. Like nobody expected that to be such a fun,
true. So,
thought out, cool game, and this doesn't feel like that.
Okay, so then maybe So we'll see what audience it pulls and if it'll pick up in that way.
Big time.
But
I did play Donkey Kong.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. So that's that's the one I was most excited about when they announced that. So please tell me more about that one.
It's a very odd game. It's a very odd game because the sort of new mechanic in what we've been teased with and what the demos have suggested, although it does feel like it's going to open up and it's going to be a much bigger experience. But the mechanic is you can basically, it's Minecraft almost, you can sort of dig into the world as Donkey Kong and there's little shades of Red Faction in there where you're just destroying the environment all around you. And so you can really get lost literally in where you are in the world because the camera is just
the digging part.
Yeah.
I saw that in the trailer too. I was wondering how that would work. Yeah.
It's messy, but I don't know how it couldn't be when you're dealing with all of that geometry destruction, but it's also compelling. Like, honestly, if you've got that OCD kind of impulse to just destroy all the crap, it's like, oh my, you really can just keep destroying everything. And that's kind of addictive, but it is a little bit of a weird fit because it's almost like a mole character would have been a better idea for something like this. Yeah. But I don't know. I trust Nintendo's inventiveness and this is, from a first party team at Nintendo. So I expect that this is going to really come together very well. We're going to know soon.
Yeah, soon we'll find out. Speaking of soon, the Switch 2's not too far off from being delivered, but did you get your pre-order?
I did.
How was the experience?
It was okay. Yeah, it was okay. We were traveling we were in Montreal. We did a little trip to Montreal and to Quebec, and it was midnight in Montreal. And my family was asleep, and I was on my phone going dip, 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 trying not to wake them up. And it took 10 minutes, and I found a retailer that was there, and I was like, oh, I got one. That's amazing. But then what I didn't do was try to fill my cart with everything because I knew that if I did that, I was going to lose the place in the pecking order. Mm-hmm. So I just got the console, and then I thought, okay, well. Because I wanted one of the new Pro 2 controllers, and I got the camera as well, which I did test out at Nintendo Switch 2 experience as well, and that was pretty fun. The one thing that I'm a little bit hesitant on is the external storage, because they've gone to a new format now. It's micro SD Express, and in Canada, it feels like you can search for that, and there aren't a lot of hits that you get back on it. Now, there is one 256 gig card that was being sort of sold with the Switch 2 for its pre-order, but that's not enough storage. If you're going to buy an extra card, you want to get at least 500 gigs or something like that,
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Well, there you go. I mean, holy cow, that was a lot. But I'm
sorry
glad
I talked.
No, it was perfect. Because you reached out, you were like, "Hey, I got hands on." I was like, "Perfect," because we need to get this on the show.
Yes.
I'm just glad that we know now. It's out there. People are starting to get their hands on it.
It's very real. It's imminent. Real. I pre-ordered Cyberpunk actually.
Lovely.
Cyberpunk 2077. Yeah, and honestly, the coolest thing about it, I know it's expensive and these are weird times and the tariffs and all that stuff, but the best thing about the Switch 2 is that it's really sort of keeping up technologically with the other players out there. And so that just gives all of the publishers a lot more incentive to work with Nintendo to bring their software there.
So true.
And less compromises. Things look really, really darn good.
Perfect. Well, I'm looking forward to it. Again, thank you so much for coming on the show to talk about it. And here it is. It's finally here. Oh my gosh. Well, have a good rest of your week, Victor, and thanks again.
Thanks, Naomi. We'll see you soon.
Victor Lucas is founder and host of The Electric Playground. You can follow him on Twitter at Victor_Lucas.
Flawless victory! Continue!
And that's This Week in Gaming. I'm your host, Naomi Kyle, and thank you so much for tuning in for all the latest in games this week. Shout out to my co-writer, Josh Seaman, for helping put the show together every week. And don't forget to let me know what you're playing and what you think of these stories by tagging me at Naomi Kyle on social. And from all of us here at This Week in Gaming, we wish you a fun-filled week. We'll see you same time, same place. Talk to you later.
This Week in Gaming is an iHeartRadio Canada podcast. Subscribe to this podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts. Download the iHeartRadio app for more podcasts just like these.
Hey, who invited climate action to the party?
We did.
Hey, I'm Shannon Byrne.
And I'm Sarah Christie.
Together, we host the Earth Day Party podcast,
Where the guest list is full of climate experts sharing their advice on how we can protect our planet.
everything from avoiding microplastics to sustainable fashion to getting a prescription to spend time in nature.
Plus, we hear from David Suzuki.
This is a party where everyone is invited.
The Earth Day Party Podcast on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.